You're listening to WCRX-lp, Columbus, Ohio, 102.1 FM, the broadcast radio service of Bexley Public Radio Foundation.
And now the Joe Contino Show on Bexley Public Radio.
That was Sal Leonetti. Continuing, we got Steve the Mule Nevelos coming up next. Until he calls us, we're going to continue with the balance of life, and I have a hunch that he's going to call in just a couple seconds. But and there he is. Look at that. How do I know that? Steve the Mule Nevelos, Joe Contino Show. How you doing, sir?
Good. How's it going, Joe?
Well, I don't know, Steve. I guess perplexed is a good word. Disappointed's another great word. Some people use pissed. Other people use angry. Deflated's another good word. What's the word in the locker room, Steve? Cleveland Browns.
I think there's a little more disappointment this week than last week. I think last week you chalk it up to a good opponent. You played them hard. You know, the ball just kind of didn't roll your way there at the end. But this one, man, I mean, you know, they dominated the Jaguars on defense. And, you know, just in an NFL game anymore, you don't see a team have a +5. And even I'd say +6. I mean, the last turnover for the Browns was on the last play of the game.
Yeah.
But to have almost no turnovers and get 6 takeaways from the team and to not come out of that with more than 10 points and lose the game, I mean, that's unheard of. I don't know if it's ever happened. You know, I haven't heard anything as far as record-wise, you know, but it's just disappointing. I mean, you know, you want to say the team's improving because they're in a lot of games, they're playing up to their competition, but, you know, can you really say improving if at the end of the day you're coming away with a loss? I mean, I don't know. It's a young team. It's growing pains, but this one I think hurts a little more than last week.
Steve the Mule Nevelos, Joe Contino Show. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I texted you yesterday during the game, and I said pretty much statistically impossible to lose this game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. You know, I'd say there's probably a 99.9% chance you don't lose that game based on the stat. I mean, you just look at the stats on paper, the turnover battle on paper, and it's, you know, it's an anomaly. But once again, it's one of those, it can only happen in Cleveland things. That, you know, you look at last week with the Joe Hayden interception, you know, in the overtime there, you know, only in Cleveland can an interception hurt you. You know, only in Cleveland can you win the battle, you know, +6 in turnovers and still lose a game. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's perplexing. You know, I mean, you can look at the offense and say they didn't you know, do their job, which they didn't. But you know, you would think at some point, you know, you would at least be set up in a field goal range or something like that. And we did miss 2 field goals. You know, that hurt us. But I'm with you. I don't understand it.
And it's funny. Well, it's not funny, but Phil Dawson is usually pretty automatic, and I can't remember a game in recent history where the loss was on his shoulders.
Yeah, you know, I wouldn't put it squarely on his shoulders. You know, missing 2 field goals is obviously not a good thing. The one was, you know, a 51-yarder. I mean, it happens. You know, you miss. Look at last week. You know, the Jets kicker missed 3. Phil's a little more reliable, but. You know, I mean, I'd give him 1, you know, 2, yeah, probably not, but I wouldn't put this squarely on his shoulders. I think if you want to look at anybody, you put this on the offensive line with their inability to you know, I mean, Colt McCoy got sacked 6 times. You know, they didn't live up to their end of the bargain. And I know we have some injuries, but we couldn't get a running game going. You know, Colt McCoy's getting sacked, and once again, it gets back to, you know, having a couple big play wide receivers, and I don't think the offensive line played up to what they were capable of against a mediocre Jacksonville defense. Nothing special there.
Hey, Mule, I'm glad you brought this up, but speaking of reasons they lost and fingers to point to, Some people are saying that a lot of those sacks, he was sacked 6 times. A lot of people are blaming those on coverage sacks. The inability of wide receivers to be open. What say you?
That's a great point. I like I said, part of it I think is the offensive line, but the other part of it is, our receivers, they can't get off the ball. We don't have any big guys that can create space and get open immediately. You're waiting.
Right. And I asked you this earlier too. Evan Moore, where was he second, third quarter?
I'm with you. He's probably, other him and Ben Watson are the top 2 targets, and they're both tight ends. I would almost venture to say put Evan Moore at more of a wide receiver position. He played wide receiver in college. I mean, he's a tall guy, a big target. Speed maybe not so much, but I agree with you. I mean, throw the ball up. He's going to catch it. He's got great hands. He's a big target. And McCoy got the ball to him a couple times late in the game, but had they gone to him more often, who knows? I agree with you. I think he needs to be more of a vital part of this offense.
Another possibility of finger pointers, or finger pointees, rather. Brian Dable, with a lack of imagination and an unwillingness to move from a running game. How much do you weigh on that?
That's a good point. I'm not going to get on Dable as much as I probably have in the past. He's had a couple of good weeks here. Maybe this was just a game he didn't come in with a lot of imagination. Maybe he thought we could just run the ball on them. But you're right. I mean, you get that many turnovers, you need to go at them. I'm talking like take a deep shot. Take a big chance downfield, and they didn't do any of that. It seemed like first down, every down was a run play. And if it's not working for you, maybe you go to something else. Typically you want to keep the defense honest, but at some point after 4 out of the 6 turnovers, try a shot downfield on first down. Something a little more creative. I think I will say that not having Josh Cribbs hurt them in terms of creativity on plays. But yeah, I would say there was a little bit of lack of imagination on his part. Especially after what he's done the past couple of weeks. So that's part of it. I think if you want to look for blame, look for it mostly on the offensive side of the ball, offensive line, receivers, and then, of course, that falls on.
I'm just sick as a Cleveland fan. I'm sick of the feeling of sitting there in the fourth quarter with that feeling. And if you're a Cleveland fan, you know what I mean. It's that feeling like they're going to lose this game. And you have it every game. The only time in recent history I haven't felt that way was that Patriots victory.
Yeah, and even the New Orleans victory.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right.
Pulled away a little bit later than in the Patriots game, but you're right. It's this inability to get the job done, and like that's what people are happy because they're competing and they're in every game, but at what point do you start expecting them to win? And that's kind of where I'm at. Look at Tampa Bay. They're a very young team. They're kind of in the same boat we are. Quarterback, second year, third year quarterback, real young, hasn't had. You're
right,
start.
But those 5 games that we have that are a 7-point margin or less, they won.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's
they're
how
finding ways to win.
That's the difference.
And that's what you have to do in the NFL. You can talk about improvement all day, but great, they've improved, but are they winning? Because to me, that's all that matters in the NFL. It's is winning. Now that maybe they're setting themselves up for some future runs, but in pro sports, you just never know. It's got to be a win now kind of mentality. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, look at the 2007 Browns, 10-6. You assume things are going to be great for years to come, and then the next year they're backwards. It's a 180. So I think you got to win now, and I think improvement is wins and losses. I don't know if it's necessarily. Yeah, we were in ball games.
Well, another example of that's your Cincinnati Bengals. 6-0 in the division last year. They have 2 wins. 2 wins.
I don't know if I want to touch on the Bengals. I mean,
they were outscored second half 42-3.
I don't know where you go from there. I mean that's just a whole mess of problems.
Have the Browns ever been that bad? I can't recall.
I don't think so. I'm going to say no to that. I mean, and especially, but you got to look at it too with the expectations they had coming in this year. I said before, some big analysts saying Super Bowl possibly for the Bengals, and boy, oh boy, have they. I mean, I don't even know what to call it. I don't know if there's a word for it, but 7 games in a row they've lost after going 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, you have people like Trey Wingo on NFL Today, and you have people like Adam Schefter that both had them going to the Super Bowl.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the expectations were high, and it's not they're just not. They're maybe 5-5. They're horrible. I'd say they're probably the worst team in the league right now. I mean, they beat Carolina barely. And I would say if they played them now, they'd probably lose. They have so many issues, and I don't know how they would address those. It's almost a rebuilding. They'd almost have to dismantle the team and build it back up. It's going to be a while for them. I don't see them doing anything anytime soon.
Now the Steelers didn't show up yesterday. However, Richard Seymour did. And I'd be lying, like I told Sally and Eddie in the last segment, Mule, I'd be lying if I didn't say, man, that was awesome.
Oh, he dropped him like a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, he did.
That was pretty funny, actually. He's probably going to get a suspension for it. And
was it confirmed that Roethlisberger? I don't even know why I have to ask this, but Roethlisberger obviously was jawing.
Yeah, he was saying something too. Now, what? I mean, maybe NFL Films will let the cat out of the bag and find out what exactly he said. But man, that was pretty funny, and that just shows you, he's running his mouth again. He's one of those guys that just kind of doesn't get it, and I think Seymour was trying to make him get it, but at what cost? We'll see what happens with him. But yeah, it was. I actually thought it was pretty funny.
What to come for Cleveland? We have 6 games remaining.
Yep.
Pretty light schedule except for the last 2 games. Do you see 5 more wins?
I thought that last week. They should beat Carolina and Buffalo. Who knows? I think they'll get at least 3 victories. It'd be nice to have 5. But then you got to wonder too. How's Colt McCoy? He's injured. He walked out of the locker room with a boot on his leg. So if it's another one of those high ankle sprains like the other 2 quarterbacks have, we'll see what happens with him. But you would expect that they would beat Carolina and Buffalo. Hopefully that'll give them a little more momentum. And they've shown they're capable of playing, like I said, close with elite teams. It's just a matter of getting over the hump. So maybe they get a couple wins against some weaker teams and a little more confidence, and that they can play with anybody, and hopefully maybe take the Ravens or the Steelers out of the playoff chase. I would say that their playoff hopes are probably gone now. Maybe mathematically they're still in it, but I would think with the loss yesterday, I think
it's pretty gone.
So, we'll see. I'd like to say, hey, let's get some young guys in to see what they can do, but they're playing. We got guys like Hayden and T.J. Ward, and they're doing a great job.
And
so
you bring up an interesting point, Mule. You bring up a really interesting point about Colt McCoy. A lot of people are back to my finger-pointing segment. A lot of people are pointing fingers right at Mangini for not putting Seneca Wallace in after the ankle injury.
No, I disagree with that. I think you stick with him. He's a gamer. He wasn't. I don't know if you remember early in the season. I can't remember the opponent, but Delhomme was. I think it was Atlanta. Delhomme was in there hobbling around. You had McCoy on the bench, and you could see that that Delhomme was visibly hurt, and he was having trouble moving around in the pocket. You would see Colt limp to the huddle, but as soon as he hiked the ball, he was moving around all right. I think he's a gamer.
Yeah, and that's what Mangini said.
He wasn't hurting the team, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So
that's what Mangini said.
Enough to be in there, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you want to give your team the best chance to win, and that's with Colt McCoy. You don't want to bring a cold Seneca Wallace off onto the field for the last play. I mean, I don't think it was a bad call.
Speaking of Colt, how impressive is this dude? I mean, seriously, just a good.
I'm extremely impressed.
And now the Joe Contino Show on Bexley Public Radio.